Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Yes, thank you. I'd like to welcome everybody who's here with us this evening, also those who are actually streaming the meeting as well. Welcome here. We have several people who actually filled out for public participation to share. Just want to remind you that as I call you forward to speak in front of the board that you do have a 5-minute limit, so I'll time you just to keep you on track on that, okay? First, we have here this evening Tina Harrison, if you would like to come. It looks like you had something to discuss about the Outreach Center.
Hello. I had spoken to Mr. Easter and Mr. Huddleston about Jacob Dickey coming to Outreach for the kids to help them with public speaking, and I brought the flyer with me. I just wanted to touch base on what we're doing out there. One thing that I tried to do was a focus group, and unfortunately, it didn't go over, so I wanted to know if it would be possible for me to schedule a time to come into the school, maybe during a lunch hour, recess, free period, or something, and talk to some kids. Just try to get their input on what they would like and what they would be interested in and what they would attend out at Outreach. I didn't know if that would be something possible that you guys would allow. And just kind of let you know that we are trying to get some family activities and kids activities out there, crafting, and hopefully maybe get an after-school tutoring program out there. That would be something that I would need some input from the school and the board if you have any teachers or students that would want to participate and be the tutors. And we already talked about that. I'm grant writing, and if there's anything that we can do out at Outreach for any of the students, please reach out to me and let me know, because I'd really like to turn Outreach into a community center for everybody, for all ages, and whatever we can get a program or event going, I'm all for it.
All right.
I'll give these to Christy. That's my card and the flyer for Jacob Dickey to come in and help any kid that wants to learn how to public speak.
Okay.
Right. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you for your time, Tina. We also have a couple people who would like to speak concerning the National Sex Education Standard. We have here Laura Inger.
Well, up first. All right. Glad I typed this out. Okay, so this statement is in regards to the curriculum content, which would be like 660 on your agenda. I've read through the 72-page National Sex Education Standard document. It is 72 pages. I admit I'm still confused. The content was written in partnership with CICUS, which on page 4 states, CICUS advances sex education as a vehicle for social change, working toward a world where all people can access and enjoy their own sexual and reproductive freedom. There are 13 pages of definitions in the appendix of the document. Of the definitions, I was surprised to know that I'm apparently labeled as cisgender, a person whose gender identity is aligned with their biological sex or sex assigned at birth. I am 35. I'm a mother. I'm considered to be an educated person. I have a bachelor's degree. I'm a state licensed professional in my career. I don't need to know many of the terms or points mentioned in the NSES, nor do I believe I have been handed a disservice with the health education from Blue Ridge that I had pre-2005. I did go to school here my entire school career. What I recall about our health and sexuality instruction was concise, non-biased, and anatomy-based. That is what I want for my children. I should absolutely be the parent, and my choice should be, when a topic becomes age appropriate as children are not one size fits all. And I especially know that even with my 2 children who are from both my husband and I, and they are completely different, and I know will require different education at different ages. Many parents don't know what the actual curriculum looks like currently, nor will they read through 72 pages of NSES. They trust their school boards, trust their educators and administrators, and ultimately have to send their kids to public school. I am quite concerned with exactly who will be teaching this standard at each grade level, which would be 2, 5, 8, and 12, and their biases. The NSES even states that some topics are triggering to both educators and students. I'll say. There are 7 topic strands, and I'll kind of run through them quickly. Consistent and healthy relationships, which is CHR, anatomy and physiology, AP, puberty and adolescent sexual development, PD, gender identity and expression, GI, sexual orientation and identity, SO, sexual health, SH, and interpersonal violence, IV. There are negative jabs at topics such as abstinence only until marriage programs. If you as a parent decide to teach your kid GI, SO, XYZ, by all means do it. But in the public school setting, outside of anatomy and physiology and the basic sex education, this is all too outrageous and confusing. The content is inappropriate, filled with bias, and infringement on our rights. My family, my right to the upbringing, education, and care of my children.
Thank you. And I think we had also Molly Schneeman.
Hello, everybody. I just want to say I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so excited that there is a really great showing of people from our community. So I want to start, I'm sorry, I would love to do this off the cuff. I can't. So bear with me. I said, I'm concerned that the relationship between district parents and the organization Growing Strong Sexual Assault Center is becoming strained. Growing Strong is based out of Decatur, and I understand that they present state-required sexual assault training to our students and to surrounding districts as well, free of charge. My concern comes from interactions I've had with teachers and parents who have reported that in the past, people representing Growing Strong have not responded well to questions on content and age appropriateness of their material. Reportedly, a teacher advocating for her class during a presentation was instead questioned and patronized by the presenter of Growing Strong, or to use the phrase, gaslit. In another instance, a parent who requested the content that their child was to be learning was questioned as to why they would want it and why essentially they should be asking questions. And they were red flagged in the conversation by Growing Strong at the representative in question. She was told that the content was not public. Both of these instances paint Growing Strong in the light of an organization that has wrong motives and creates a loss of credibility and trust. The work that they do is so important and so delicate in terms of context and tone that I want to offer a suggestion. Perhaps Growing Strong would welcome an opportunity to come to open discussion with parents and caregivers to help ease those tensions and build trust again. I think it would give our students, advocates, our students' biggest advocates, their parents and their teachers, a lot of peace of mind knowing that the organization acting in loco parentis has nothing to hide in terms of content and tone, and that full transparency is the only acceptable way to do so. I also want to acknowledge, thank you, that the board has in the past agreed to opt out of the National Sex Education Standards and appreciate that judicious decision. My opinion is that those who adopt those standards are riding miles high on a plane that is being flown at the same time that it's being built. And that's a dangerous place to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Hillary, response as far as a Growing Strong or not? Okay. All right, we have several presentations here this evening. We want to start off with, we have some guests here tonight from the CEO program that we have here. Melanie Brown and Kevin Maxwell representing that. And then we have also student Carly that's here with them this evening. And Melanie, I'm going to turn that over to you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, and I'll stand this way so I don't come back. Sorry, coming back to you. My name is Melanie Brown. Sorry. My name is Melanie Brown, and I'm the facilitator for the CEO program. And we do have some slides that I'm going to walk through just really briefly in case you've never heard of the CEO program, just to help you to better understand what it is. And then Carly will give more of her testimony. She is one of our students this year, and Kevin Maxwell is one of our investors as well as a board member, and he is a Farmer City resident. So CEO stands for Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities, and it is for juniors and seniors in high school. It is the #1 entrepreneurial program in the U.S., and your school has this opportunity for your students. Can you turn the slide? I'm sorry. Thank you. So this class is actually students, juniors and seniors in high school, their first and second hour class. They meet with me 90 minutes every single day the entire school year. So on their schedule that they would get, instead of having 2 classes here at the school, they would have CEO for first and second hour. We meet 90 minutes a day, Monday through Friday, and we never meet on a school campus. We are in collaboration with Warrensburg-Latham, Clinton, and Maroa-Forsyth. So students from all 4 of those schools gather together at our site location. And that may vary from a hospital site tour. It could be at a bank. It could be at McDonald's restaurant or Crawford's Pizza. We've been to Maxwell Counters. We've been to the City Hall here in town. And I'll let Carly here in just a second tell you about her favorite site visit. But our goal is to expose the students, #1, to as many different industries as possible to help them to kind of figure out what they want to do with their life. Secondly, it's to teach more about business, and it's a hands-on approach. It's not a traditional class, so we do a lot of projects, a lot of jumping in and walking through processes. One specific example is we do a development project where I show them a piece of ground and say, okay, what would you do here? What would you build here? You have 10 days to design it from the ground up. Tell me what you're going to sell, what the name of it is. And they get this hands-on approach working with architects and urban planners and engineers. In addition to that, we want them to better understand the communities in which they live. I grew up in Argenta, and I thought I wanted to get the heck out of Central Illinois. And I ended up staying because I learned about the economic opportunities here in Central Illinois. My husband and I have great jobs, and we are able to support our family there. We have our family, living nearby, and it has been a wonderful life for us. And I want many of these students who think, I just want to get the heck out of here, to just stop for a second and appreciate the communities in which they live and see the opportunities that are there. Students can also get dual credit, which means they can get college credit from Western Illinois University. That's an opt-in. So the class is free as part of your curriculum, but you can opt in to get 3 credit hours from Western Illinois University. The experience, like I just mentioned, there are definitely many opportunities from business to problem-solving, teamwork, motivation, public speaking, and then the class is made up of juniors and seniors. We are taking registration right now. We're taking applications for our class next year, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to come. We wanted to share this with the school board and say thank you for supporting this program, bringing it to the community and this opportunity to these students, because it changes lives. Jordan Geralds was a graduate from Farmer City, and on her last day of CEO, she was crying when we presented her cords to her, and she said, I never thought I would receive a recognition like this in my high school career. And she said this made such an impact on her life. And that is why I do what I do, and I'm so passionate about it, because I do feel like we are setting them apart from their peers, and we're giving them these amazing opportunities. So with that, I'm going to let Carly share what CEO has meant to her, why she signed up, and how it's impacted her life.
Hi, I'm Carly Parson. Can you all hear me okay? It doesn't sound that loud. I'm a junior at Clinton High School, and one of the big things is in our class, it's a discussion, is a junior or senior year better for the CEO program? I would say either way, it is an absolutely great experience. and you're going to learn so many things. I know last year I wouldn't have been up here standing in front of any of you. I couldn't even give a basic speech in my English class. But it teaches you great things like public speaking, and one of my favorites that we all have mentioned is networking. I think that building those connections within your community is a great thing, and it's going to help you with the many, many other things that you learn in the class later on whenever you hopefully stay in your community because of those connections, and you continue to build on those with the various skills that you have. And I don't have a favorite site visit. One of my favorite things we do is our mentor days. Those are really beneficial for things like our group business, individual business, and continuing to make those connections and to learn those new things because you're learning them from so many different people, and you have 90 minutes to so many different people. You have those consistent connections. You can look in our action plan and find the numbers of people. And I really like mentor days because they teach us a lot outside of what somebody from one business would. And really that's all I have, but if you or your friends or anybody is considering the program, I would absolutely say to sign up. And we only have 20 spots, and it's almost over with, so you should do it now. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, real quick. I'm Kevin Maxwell. I've operated a business here in Farmer City for a number of years. Got involved with CEO first to meet and greet with students, and then later with a business tour. Was impressed enough with the students to feel like I wanted to get deeper involved, became an investor. Now I'm a board member. I just want to encourage the school board and the high school faculty to really promote this as a unique learning opportunity for kids. When you meet the students that have gone through this program, you hear them talk about it being transformational. So I do believe it's a really unique learning opportunity and one that's important for Blue Ridge. So we want to continue to really promote in the community kids that have a different need or desire to learn. So thank you.
Thank you again for having us. If you are interested, our website is up on the screen there. If you do not have a junior or senior, you could get involved by having us come to your local business for a site visit or come and be a speaker. You could be a mentor or an investor of the program. The program is 100% funded by investors. So that's local businesses who have donated money to make this program happen. So we could not do this without the community support and without the board support. So thank you so much for having us. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out.
All right, thank you, Melanie. We have with us a lot of exemplary knights here this evening. I know you're anxious to get to be able to stand in front of everybody. But before we get to you, students, we do have exemplary staff members as well. And the board would like to also recognize you. Your peers have recognized you in your buildings for your exemplary work that you've done. We thank you for that. And tonight we have with us here from the Schneider Elementary School, we have Mary Russell. If you'd come forward, please. From the Blue Ridge Intermediate Junior High School, we have Molly Schneeman here with us this evening. From the Blue Ridge High School, we have Cullen Skurlock here with us as well. Our official picture taker is Paige tonight. All right. We also want to show our appreciation for those staff members because your work as endeavorments have also brought about our exemplary night students here tonight. We want to recognize you for all your hard work you've done as students. And again, on the monthly newsletters you get from the superintendent, please read all the reports from each building from the principals, and they have little excerpts of why these students were chosen. And so please be sure to read up on that. We have with us tonight from the Blue Ridge High School, Sydney Beckman and Colin Michaels. From 8th grade, we have Drake Hardesty. Nope, I'm sorry, Drake isn't here, but still clap for him. All right. 7th grade, we have Jacob Miller. From 6th grade, we have Brooklyn Hardesty. From 5th grade, unable to be with us this evening, is Palmer Payton. 4th grade, we have Kaylin Umstead. 3rd grade, we have Briley Maddox. From 2nd grade, we have Annie Smith. All right. 1st grade, we have Parker Ellis. And from kindergarten, we Parker Jackson, but he's unable to be here this evening. All right. If you're a parent, like to get a close-up, please feel free to come forward. All right. You're welcome to take off at this moment. We have down as a, okay. Andrea, I'm sorry. Did you want him to stay for yours?
Quick. Where is the clicker? Oh, it's back up. Did he put it? Okay. Let's get started. It's February. That means the technology team gets to come talk, our annual State of the Technology of the District. We met as a committee. There we go. We met as a committee on February 1st, I believe, and that committee is composed of administrators and a teacher from our buildings, and Dave and myself. And I have a few highlights to go through with you. I did put the entire report together in the board packet. One thing that we did is we decided that our electronic acceptable use policy could probably go ahead and merge with our Chromebook agreement. We made quite a few revisions, mainly to the Chromebook agreement, but also to the acceptable use policy, just to make sure it was up to date. There were some things that needed to change. The Chromebook agreement, one major area that we put more information in regarding was some of the cost of repairs. So we, in the past, had highlighted probably 4 or 5 main areas, but we outlined several more in the agreement, and those prices have increased quite a bit as well. So we wanted to make sure to reflect that change. We recapped highlights from this year and then talked about next year within the committee. We also discussed some handbook changes that we recommended for students and employees, and we created a different process for moving forward with our committee. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a little bit. As far as highlights from this past year, you'll remember last year we came to you and we talked about our network refresh, and that was a big undertaking. So this last year we focused on stage 1, and that stage entailed phone systems. So our phone system throughout the district has changed, as well as all of our door accesses. So we have switched over entirely to that. We also had to change paging and bell systems to go along with those. And we have about 85% high school camera replaced, 85-ish. 90-ish, okay. So that's stage 1, and we'll talk about stage 2 when we talk about next year. We set up a new tracking system for all assets involving technology in the district. A couple years ago, we adopted what the library was using, which was called the Destiny system, and we found it to be very cumbersome and just not very user-friendly. It was also very expensive. So we decided to go a separate way, and now we have a little app on our phone. It's great, it's inexpensive, and it works perfect for what we need it to do. But that was a big undertaking to make sure that everything was labeled and inventoried. We also took our Chromebooks and we looked at who would benefit most from what. So throughout the district, we have different testing software that has to run for different grade levels. And what we have found is that K through 8 really needs the most up-to-date Chromebooks because the software that has to be compatible with those programs can't be used with end-of-life Chromebooks. So with that being said, and the fact that our young kiddos really need the touchscreen capability, we inventoried all Chromebooks and then redistributed in a way that made the most sense for us. We streamlined communication for sports using our Sports U app, so we have access to that with all sports within the district as well as activities. And then from a building standpoint, we are streamlined as far as communication within Schneider using Seesaw and BRIJHS using Clever. We added increased filters for Chromebooks. Several of you were at the parent night that we had very poor attendance at, but nonetheless, a lot of you were there. And that filtering has a parent component as well, which is really nice. We also enabled two-factor authentication for all of our staff Google accounts. Just the need for cybersecurity is just continuing to increase. I'm sure you guys saw the news last week about the Effingham School District having to close for a day. That threat is always nerve-wracking. Okay, so this was our network refresh project. We talked about the purpose of it, having some updated features, some security measures, more security measures in place, eventual annual cost savings. We're going to show you some exciting savings with our phone systems and the allowance of future growth. So current results that we've experienced as a result of the stage 1. You can see our nice little pictures here. So this is what our phones look like now. That's what our door accesses look like. We have, drum roll, we've got $2,100 savings per additional door. We have very high monthly phone savings at $2,350, which creates almost $30,000 yearly savings with licensing, which is great. When we put our estimates up last year, you guys, we put $13,400. So that's like a really big win because we were being conservative and we didn't know how many lines we would need. We do have new cameras in place at the high school, which will transfer to other areas of the district. Those provide better coverage, and if you want to see them ever, go into the office, the high school office area, and you can see how great they are. So, and then of course being able to access everything from one location. I keep going the wrong direction. This is not like my clicker. Mine goes left and right. Okay, up next. Want to talk about what's up next?
Sure. So coming up next, we have E-rate cabling. So E-rate is a program that we, federal program that we access every year for technology assistance. This year we'll be focusing on some cabling jobs over in Mansfield, mostly associated with some of the new networking products that we have going in. We'll also be replacing quite a few wireless access points. Many of the wireless access points that we have throughout the district, one, they were on the old networking system that we're replacing, but two, they're also getting kind of old technology-wise themselves, some of them approaching about 5 years old. So those are getting replaced. We'll also be replacing switching and firewall products. Also some of that will be E-rate. Some of that is just part of our network refresh projects that we're still working on. Camera replacements, we'll actually be starting on camera replacements at Schneider probably before spring break. I'm hoping to have most of Schneider completed in March, if at all possible. We'll be moving on to the junior high school probably closer to summer by the time we're finished with that. And as weather permits, we'll start on the exterior cameras. That's the only thing that we have left at the high school level. So, network two-factor authentication. That's a project that's going to probably take place this summer. What that means, it's different from our Google authentication. Network authentication just means when somebody logs onto a computer, not just their email, they'll also be using two-factor authentication. Again, it's just part of that cybersecurity focus that we have. For Mansfield, we have some physical servers that are going to be replaced over there. That project's kind of been in the works for almost 2 years now. We've had some of the equipment, and just because of other projects that we had going on, they had to be delayed, but that should be taken care of this summer. And, of course, a continued focus on cybersecurity, just like we said.
Okay, so after meeting with the committee, we kind of talked about the purpose of the committee as we began the committee, which was 9 years ago. So the purpose of the committee was to sort of help the rollout of Chromebooks and one-to-one within the district, right, in stages. So we talked about it, and we were like, how do we make this more effective? Because like meeting once a year is great, but also that's a lot, and technology touches so many different areas within the district. Like, how could we make use of our time a little bit better? So we decided to create spin-offs, and we didn't call them committees because nobody wants to be on a committee. So we have spin-offs. So moving forward, what we've decided is that we're going to break it down, and we've actually identified timelines, which is great. So I think Paige kind of is in charge of like this big calendar within the district of like scheduling things, and we're hoping that she'll allow us to join her efforts. So we'll have a spin-off for technology and health life safety, technology and security, technology and curriculum, intervention and state mandates, technology and classroom integration, technology and extracurriculars, technology and state reporting. So we've identified those areas of need. Moving forward, no more technology committee. We'll still come back and see you guys in February and give you updates, but we're going to approach things in a different way. So do you guys have any questions for us? No? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. My button's not working. All right, moving on to communication.
Okay, a lot of FOIA requests going on. FOIA requests for retired teachers, that's an annual request, we have none. FOIA requests from local labs, they wanted to know a listing of our teachers, what they teach, and their pay per calendar year, not per contract. That's all public information, so that was replied to in a timely fashion. We had basically a sales call that you got through email. I asked to be removed from the email list. We got an email from Everyone Reading Illinois from about House Bill 1124 and Senate Bill 343. I did ask for Sarah Eplin to respond to us a little bit about that, and she gave you information from the Illinois Alliance of Administrators of Special Education. They do not support this bill, and so you can refer back to that. If you would like to fill out the form that was sent to you, you may, but you can see Sarah Eplin's advice as well. And then we had a Bateman family email about Growing Strong. I will share that. You heard tonight about Growing Strong. Growing Strong is willing for us, as long as they have There are videos that are being shared through, right now, at the elementary level, they're using a video for their sex abuse information that is on YouTube. And so we can directly share that link with families when Mr. Payton sends that email out. If they do go searching for new videos that are copyrighted, they can't share that, but they are willing to meet with any parent who wants to preview that before giving consent. They will either do that in person or they can virtually share that video and presentation with any parent who would like to see that. So those are the communications for this month.
And there was no committees that met, so we're moving to administrative reports. Dr. Stenifer.
You have my report in front of you. We're doing a significant amount of work on summer school. We keep on saying that we'll give you more reports, but we've met with a couple of the administrative team, have met with 4-H again. We're looking at some different plans for summer school this year and combining that with iReady. You might hear Paige or some of the other principals talking about that as well. That plan is still in the formation progress or process. Excuse me. I do want to go into the other pieces that are in my underneath my report. We have a report there that says development and definition of committee structure. We had talked previously about the work, some of the invisible work that the administrators are doing. I had asked for them to log hours for a month just so you could see the work that was going in on their part. And one of the questions that came across was, what about the preventative things that are going on? And so this was an attempt to show you some of the work that we've been doing at our district ILT work level. We have a district instructional leadership team that you'll see in this document. We have building instructional leadership teams. We're doing a lot of individual building work this year. And so on this document, it kind of shows you what some of those functions are. Overall, the importance of the district instructional leadership team is to really align the functions between each building to make sure that we're giving a very smooth process between each of the buildings. We want to make sure that all of the expectations that we have are growing intentionally between the buildings, between the grade levels. And I want everybody to understand the differences in the committees. So on that document that you have in front of you, if you go down to the work that we're doing in 22-23, one of the important things is grasping the distinction between the building level meetings and the MTSS Tier 1 meetings, MTSS Tier 2 meetings, and then the Tier 3 meetings. So the best way to describe what would happen at a monthly building instructional leadership team meeting is basically looking at any building practices that are not currently meeting our needs. An example would be, we found out that at intermediate junior high, we didn't have a consistent homework policy, and that was causing some inconsistencies, some strife between grade levels, between classroom teachers, for parents to understand, and so that's something that that team took upon themselves to work out, make a decision, and then everybody in the building is following the same expectation. So that's something that would be brought to the building instructional leadership team. An example of something that would happen at a monthly MTSS or multi-tier system of support Tier 1 meeting, that could be an example of, we're looking at data that we're collecting from referrals, discipline referrals. Maybe we're finding that when kids come back in from recess, that we're having a hard time with them transitioning from outside recess to coming back into the classroom afterwards. Well, if we find that everybody's struggling with that, then we're going to talk about, with all of our staff, what can we do when they come back in? What reminders do we need to give the kids before they go out to recess? When they come back in, what do those reminders look like? How can we all use the same language? How can we support kids in that? That's called a Tier 1 conversation, because everybody should be doing it the same way. And then you talk about what a Tier 2 meeting is. A Tier 2 meeting is something, we've given everybody the same information, but there's just a few kiddos that it's not working for them. So what do we need to do specifically for that small group of kids that need that extra bit of a reminder? And then the Tier 3 situation, even the Tier 2 work didn't work, so we need to do something extremely special for that group. And so when you don't have those structures in place, then sometimes you have conversations that are not productive, and you have students that are struggling academically or behaviorally, and you keep spinning your wheels, right? So we've had some buildings that have had maybe no structures in place for this, some that have had halfway functioning structures in place. So we've really spent a lot of time working on what do we call these structures? Who should be on these teams? How many people should be on these teams? How are they going to function? What kind of forms are we going to use? How are we going to communicate to everybody else who's not sitting on these teams? When are these teams going to meet? How are we going to pay the people? All the different pieces that have to go into place. So that's the more of the invisible, proactive work that we've been doing on the inside, both last year and this year. And so I asked the principals, maybe that's why Mr. Payton's sick, he didn't want to come and talk about that tonight, right? So Paige and the principals are going to give you kind of a little bit of a sneak peek at what's going on inside their building. And I'll just say that for Mr. Payton, he was going to say, they've had some meetings like this before, maybe not clearly defined, but for one of the things he's been working on is that consistency in his building and making sure that it's going to be able to be aligned properly and be able to have those processes in place so when he sends kids off to Bert's building that things are going to be understood in the same way. So I'll turn it over to Bert next to kind of follow up on that and what that means to him and his building.
I would just like to start to let you know that, and I mentioned this on my hiring date last year, that one of the things that attracted me to Blue Ridge is I heard about the opportunity. I started digging into the board notes and looked at the work that was being done with the strategic planning and the mentioning of the examination of some of these systems that Dr. Stanifer's talking about tonight, and knowing that I would get to be part of some of that restructuring in the building that I would be principal at was a very exciting opportunity for me. And that was definitely one of the things that attracted me to come and apply to this position at Blue Ridge. With that in mind, some of the work that we've done so far really is, like she said, making sure that those definitions of those levels of support for students are clear for all of us, and so that there is a continued flow through all three of our campuses. And so at the intermediate junior high school, really making sure, do we know what is happening at each one of these teams? And then that examination caused us to definitely restructure into much more of the alignment about what Dr. Stanifer explained. What this means moving forward, is it's really going to help that tier 1 implementation, that, like she said, that everybody gets, and evaluate those curriculum needs for both academics and social emotional learning, making sure, are those things happening? Are they being effective? Do we have existing interventions for both of those curriculums at the tier 2 and tier 3 level? Or are those things that we need to bring in from the outside because it's not part of what we currently have? And so really taking that close examination to make sure that we have the pieces that are needed. And then lastly, I would say that we're making sure, are we maximizing the support in our buildings based on the needs that are told to us through looking at student data? So are we really putting our energy and efforts into the areas that are best serving our kids? And because, like she said, it's a lot of different layers that we want to make sure we're wrapping around our kids so that we don't find kids falling through the cracks, both through academics or behaviorally.
I'm going to try something different this week. Just set it on the stand, see if that works better for me. So at the high school, yeah, when we started into this process, it was when we examined what we had in place, we learned that we were missing a whole lot of pieces to this. So at the high school, we are really starting from scratch. And so we are having to redefine our teams and talk more about what people's roles are in different things. And it's a new process for all of us. And so with the tier 1 things, one of the things that's really interesting is there are some just general things that we think that kids should know how to do, or that these should be just general day-to-day understandings of things. But if we're not teaching them these things, then we might see them not following through on what our expectations are, but we're not teaching. A prime example, and this just struck me last night. I was at the basketball game, and some of our students were just saying and doing things that maybe high school students do at sporting events. And I was thinking to myself that, some of this just isn't appropriate. It's not what I want for our students, but I have not taken the time to teach them appropriate behaviors in student sections at sporting events. And so that's just a classic example of when we break apart, one of the things we have to do, we have to recreate our behavior matrix. And that is, these are the things that we want for our kids, and then define all the spaces. And if one of the spaces is at extracurricular events, what are the expectations for kids there? One of the things that I talk about with Dr. Staniff for quite a bit is it feels like there are so many things to tackle. There's so many things that I want to improve, and so many things I want to get better. And it can sometimes be overwhelming. But this structure, once we get this in place, then it will be on the whole staff and on all of us, and not just me seeing that I got to do this and I want to do this and I want to do this. So, I'm excited to see what this looks like as we move forward, because it's a brand new experience for most of us here at the high school.
I would say the two things that I'm most excited about with this work is having consistent structures and common language, starting at Snyder, going all the way up to the high school. I think that that's going to be so beneficial, not only for the students, but also for the parents. A lot of the buildings had, committees that were similar, but maybe they were called something different, or the way they approached things were different. So with the work that we're doing now, they're going to start in kindergarten. They're going to hear this common language that's going to follow them all the way up until high school. And I think for the parents, it's going to be beneficial that when their student goes from Snyder, oh, we're going to Mansfield now, we have to learn all these new committees and all these new, definitions of what this committee does, or what this assessment does, because that's another thing. Part of this work is that we're starting to align and do more common assessments across the board that are, I think we'll see growth just in the students being used to those assessments every single year, not something new when they're going from kindergarten to first grade, but they'll see it in Mansfield, and then they'll see it in the high school as well. So I think from having the perspective that I can look at all three buildings, I think just those common structures and then the language that's common will be very important for our kids and our parents as well.
Yeah.
I think that's important coming from somebody who sees what's going on in every building. Until you go and work in every single building, you don't get to see the stark differences sometimes that can exist. So, yeah. Does anybody have any questions about that? That's the instructional leader part of what's going on inside of each building, which to me is a very critical focus. That's what we're here for our kids and for the teaching and learning. And that easily can be left aside, unfortunately, when the daily stuff just gets in the way, because the daily stuff can definitely fill up your day, more than fill up your day. So all of this work, this invisible work, is the good work that has to be done for the sake of our kids. But sometimes it just takes another person, another day to get these things done.
Well, I know on behalf of the board that we appreciate the effort, because it truly speaks of the hashtag ER United. Because it's just went from each building doing their own thing to where we thought was just mainly we wanted to see something happen at the intermediate school and the junior high school, and then all of a sudden the vision became not just this building, but we all need to be in line with one another. And hey, in another 4 years, you won't have to worry about the kids how they should act, because Bert's going to have them trained by the time they get into high school. They'll be great. But anyway, we appreciate the effort and the work and everything that you guys have been putting into this.
Thank you. Thank
Chelsea, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just curious, would we be able to see and are you guys using like a backwards design curriculum map for like what you want the end behavior to be? And I would be curious if we could see what those end behavior goals are for them to be at in high school. And then if that's your end goal, how are you going to get there from K, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to high school?
Actually, so at our Tier 1 and Tier 2 meetings last month, when we looked at our behavior matrix, we realized that some of those things are really outdated, and we have to come up with new terminology of what it is that we really want. And so I know that that's on our docket for this month. We'll talk about what are the most important things.
It sounds a lot like response to intervention to me, which just makes me happy.
It is. I mean, it's, I think that's what some of this used to be called. Was
Yeah,
RTI.
tier one,
Yeah.
tier one, two, yeah.
RTI, PBIS.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
You keep changing the names, but.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I would just like to see what are, because it seems like before you can get to the academics, we have the behavior to fix. What are our end goals for our kids when they graduate from Blue Ridge? We know we want them to be proficient in reading, math, writing, without saying that. But what are our end behavioral soft skill goals for our students? Have those been defined? And if they haven't, is that part of this mission?
Yeah. Right now, I think we're starting with behavior matrix piece. That's what Abby's guiding us to. She's guiding that work instead of meeting at the broad district level right now. She's digging into each building because it's really specific building work that's going on. And so she's starting us with behavior matrix at each building, keeping us aligned as we go. That's what we're digging into right now. That's our spring and summer work for right now.
Yeah, no, and that's fantastic. I mean, when I was back teaching and I would go from classroom to classroom, from grade school to high school, what I always saw the number one issue was that there was not consistency between buildings or even between grade levels. And that just is what I thought led to all the issues that we were having. But if we can get everybody on the same team for the same end goal, that would be fantastic.
Any other feedback from the other board members? All right.
Alrighty. And then also underneath my report, personnel plan for 23-24. So 3 main ideas that you saw on there. Typically what we've done in the past historically is when a K through 3 grade level reaches the enrollment number of 50 plus, we move to 3 sections at that grade level. We moved to 2nd grade having 3 teachers for this 22-23 school year. That puts us in a place, we've kept that enrollment this year. So I would propose that we move for our 3rd grade to be at 3 sections for next year. And the next piece on my personnel plan was talking about, I feel strongly that we need to have an additional administrator at the BRIJHS building, but I'm also very sensitive to the fact that we have some significant board changes that are coming up at our April 4th election. I don't want anything to be misinterpreted as a superintendent trying to push their own personal agenda through before a new board gets here, and this really is the sweet spot for hiring. So I'm willing to say we can table that for a year, but I want to make sure that it's very clear from my perspective that the support is needed in that building. We have more grade levels in that building, and there is a stark difference between a 4th grader and an 8th grader. And there's a lot of invisible and visible work that needs to be done in that building. And Bert's doing a fantastic job, but we need help. He's buzzing around from before morning till after night, trying to get that work done. So, and I know that many of you are highly aware of that. Mary Diener has continued to work for us as a retired administrator here to support at the high school. I would like to ask for her to continue next year. I can't tell you exactly where those funds are going to come from. We are still in the middle of reworking ESSER 3, which can still be spent through 24, but we also have access to another round of REAP grant. Actually, 2 REAP grants are going to be available to us, or district funds, and it's just too early to know how those 3 funds are going to be able to be used. But we've learned yesterday and today that a lot of the things that we thought would have to come out of ESSER or title can be pushed over into REAP. So that means other things can be moved around. Things that would have been paid with those grants will be moved to other areas. And so there's realistic hope that district funds would be relieved so that we could use those for Mary's position. So those are the 3 proposals. I'll take questions now, but then they'll show up later in the agenda.
Okay. I think that's it on, Ryan's not here. You have his notes, and we have Bert, if you want to come back up.
Just a couple of quick things from my board notes I wanted to share about is March 2nd, we've got, hope I didn't steal your thunder there. We got another exciting opportunity to have families come into the intermediate junior high school with family reading night, and I won't say any more just in case she wants to elaborate on that. Also been, you know, as I mentioned in my presentation to families around our designation from the state in relationship to lots of factors, mostly including our scores from IAR, but also looking at our attendance, wanting to start developing some plans around some attendance incentives. We're at about 92.5% attendance for the year, which isn't good, which is not bad. It's better than where we've been, but 95% is what the state of Illinois thinks is good for a school, and so I think that should be our minimum goal. If we can get above that, even greater. We were at a chronically truant rate of 44% last year. So definitely something. And the student council's kind of jumped on board, and they want to be part of that too. So I think as the students realize the importance of coming to school every day, it will be great. One more thing, just, are we still here? Oh, Mrs. Schneeman left. But she had an excellent opportunity to bring in some writing into her art classroom this last quarter. And she wrote to a pretty famous author and illustrator by the name of Tony D. Terlizzi, really famous for winning a Caldecott Award for The Spider and the Fly, and also his work for authoring and illustrating the Spiderwick Chronicles, and so the students wrote some letters, and they were like, why are we writing in art? This is supposed to be art. Well, he wrote back to them and sent them some really cool things, and so now they get to see, oh, okay, that's why we're doing that. So pretty excited that our kids get to see some of those cool things in action.
Thank you, Bert.
Oh, any questions?
No. Brian?
I usually try to say less than Mr. Payton, so no, just really quickly, something that's upcoming next week that I'm not sure I put on the agenda just is our FFA week is next week here at school, and that's obviously a large organization within our building, and so we'll have some dress-up days and we'll have some different things. One thing that I really enjoy is on Thursday they have a college and career fair in the gym, and we'll have representatives from some different colleges come in, and kids can walk by and ask them questions. We have some different employers that are out there for different career opportunities, and just kids have a chance to ask questions, learn about different careers, and then Friday, of course, the thing that the elementary building looks forward to is our barnyard petting zoo. We'll have that Friday down in the ag room, and so that's always a great thing. Last year, Dave, I think there was a little baby goat maybe down there. Yeah, it was really, really cute. I got to hold it. So anyway, questions?
No, thank you.
All right.
Paige?
So you have my board report. I think just in addition, I'll share, I say this every year, but February and March is really, I don't know if I'm in this year or next year because I'm wrapping up this year, trying to finalize end of the year reports for grants. But then, like Hillary said, looking forward at budgets, okay, how are we going to spend all of these different pots of money for next year? And just working with different departments like technology, what are their needs? What can we write in? As well as each of the building principals. So I'm doing a lot with that, as well as I'm working on fall induction day already for our new hires, and all of the PD that's going to take place this summer in math and ELA. So it's really a busy time of planning and wrapping up this year, but looking forward and planning for next year as well. So do you have any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Technology, do we need to hear anything more from you this evening? Okay. All right, you have the other reports that you've had a chance to read. Moving on to approval of consent items. We need a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items listed on attachment A as presented. Carlos? Jason? Yes. papers here. New business?
Alrighty, so first up is Press 110, and this is our first reading, so no action for this month, but this is the second half, or set 2, for Press 110. If you remember, it was so large that we divvied it up into 2 parts. There were actually 4 of policies of this set that I brought to your attention. I'll kind of go out of order here. So policy 7340, it talked about having, that was about the student directory information. This is just kind of an internal note for me. We have to make sure that we have both an online and an in-person way for parents to opt out of releasing student directory information. We had that online. I don't know that we had a great in-person registration method that we were continuing to use for that. So Andrea is working on that for summer registration. Policy 650, that was about our annual wellness committee. And that was something that we slipped and did not have a meeting for last year. So Paige saved the day and had the meeting 2 days ago for this year. That's just a matter of getting Health, PE, and Tanya Evans together. So Paige is going to make sure that happens on our August curriculum day each year, talking about healthy choices, all the things that we do in PE classes, any other new initiatives, our American Heart Association initiatives that we have that we do so well with. Tanya's increased work with fresh foods, fruits, vegetables, things like that. Mm-hmm. We invited the nurses to attend that as well. Great. Some really great ideas. Yeah. So that's something that once it gets in Paige's hand, it won't get missed having that annual meeting. Policy 5120, this goes along with I believe this is part of Faith's law, and the policy says that you have to have district guidance for employees in 3 different areas: transporting students, having photos or videos on your phone of students, and meeting with students outside of the employee's professional role. And so the policy says that I'm supposed to have guidance for employees, and I'll tell you, being honest, looking around, asking other superintendents for advice and what they're doing, nobody's talking. So I don't know what anybody else is using because nobody's sharing anything with me. And I've asked attorney, I've asked Bushu, I've asked other superintendents, and not getting much advice. So I started writing some language myself and ran it by board attorney, and he said, looks pretty good. So I took it to our administrative council, and then administrative council is taking it to building ILT for their perspective, just to get more ideas from them, see if we're all hearing it the same way. And once it goes through them, we'll bring it back to the board attorney, and then that would be something that we put into our employee handbook. And that's just a matter of basically saying, if you're going to transport a student, we're talking like if somebody gets left at the end of a volleyball practice, or at the end of an event and there's nobody there, then you're contacting your administrator before you would ever put a child in your car to take them home, or contacting the police officer to take them home. About the phones, I have pictures of district kids on my phone because we go to Facebook, right? So we have to be, Paige has, set you up, right? Paige has some on her phone tonight. So realistically, we know that if we're doing that and we have photo release and we're doing it for a positive reason or for an educational reason, you have reason to do that, then that's okay. We also know that sometimes we transport kids because we just have carpool arrangements. Those things are okay. If you're having an arrangement other than outside of your professional role, like for baking a cake, babysitting, something like that, then the parent has to be aware of that. So we're writing language like that, so we are taking into account that we have some of those relationships and things going on, but parents need to be aware. So we're working on that language. We plan to have something in the employee handbook when that goes out in August. But that handbook will come to you, so you'll get to see it before it goes out. Now for the one that we're waiting for, which is 660, so that's about curriculum. So it talks about, so now in the hands of the board, because board sets policy, we get to talk about sex education. So now the board is going to need to make a decision, not this month again, because this is a discussion month. Next month is the time where you make a decision, and the state is asking you to make a decision between telling the district that we need to teach the national comprehensive sex education standards, which you for 2 weeks have had that link so you could read through that, or we teach no sex education. Now, what we did, and I think it was back in 2019, spring of 2019, we had renewed or revised our sex education curriculum that we had in the district. And so I sent you a link for that as well, so you could take a look at it. We use something that's free and online. So I personally, and this is not about me, because I'm not a voting board member, and the board sets policy. But just so you are aware of what my perspective is, I don't believe that our communities would go for the national sex education standards. Personally, I would not favor teaching the national sex education standards. I do not believe that it would be proper for us to teach no sex education either. So that kind of gives us two places where my feeling about teaching no sex education is also that, unfortunately, we're in a place where we have many parents that expect the schools to be teaching something, and if nothing is taught, we have a lot of children that are not going to hear proper sex education. So my personal perspective is somewhere in the middle. Right now, in our state, we're not given a choice of being somewhere in the middle if we're going to be legal. So my suggestion that I'm going to say to the board of, if you were to ask what my opinion was, and you haven't, but I will go ahead and tell you what my opinion would be to say that we teach no sex education. That's what we would say that we were going to do in our policy, but then we take what we currently have and we tease through it. What we teach in grades 4 through 8, even though we call it our sex education curriculum, it's not all sex education. It's about healthy relationships, about knowing how to get along with one another, how to have boundaries with one another. And so like when Paige and I were talking, if you look at what's presented in 4th grade, there's probably nothing in there that would be called sex education. Although we send a letter home to parents and say, here's the lessons that we're teaching. Then you talk about 5th grade, probably the same thing. There's probably nothing in there that would technically be called sex education. So you send a letter home to parents, you teach the lessons. 6th grade, maybe, I'm just kind of spitballing a little bit here, maybe 6th grade is where we have some anatomy. Okay, so here's male anatomy, here's female anatomy. So you send the letter home to parents, you teach this, you teach that. Maybe perhaps it's 7th grade where we have some sex education coming for the first time. You send the letter home to parents, you teach lesson 1 and 2. And then you get to that line, that cutoff line where, okay, now the next 3 lessons are sex education. So you stop and you send home to the parents, here's the information, here are the links of the lessons that we can no longer teach your kids because of what the state has told us, but here's the access to it if you would like to go ahead and teach that to your children, because we're no longer able to do that because of the decision that was made. That's where I feel like, to me, would be that in-between space.
We talked about, too, if you decide to go in that direction, in the fall, specifically at Bert's building, we would have a parent night where we would invite parents in and say, show them, these are the lessons that we'll be teaching in the classroom that are not sex ed. Here are the lessons we normally would teach, but we can't now. If you would like these resources, here they are, and then let them do what they choose to do or not do with them.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you said you were going to talk with Jeff, our advisor, as far as legal advice, as far as where can you draw that line in the sand and not, you're saying, quote, we'll tease and pull things out. Is there going to be a liability? If we say no, then no's no. If we say no, then we're really, we're going to pull some parts out. So how do you do that and still not cross that line?
Well, yes, we'll run it by Jeff, but think about this. All kids are going to take biology. Just because you're not teaching sex education doesn't mean that we're not going to know what body parts are. That's not sex, that's a body part, right? And think about this. Legally, we have to teach about we have to teach about the dangers of sexual abuse. If we have to teach about sex abuse, how do we teach them what's wrong when we haven't taught them what's right? I mean, there's a lot of weird stuff going on, right? So they have to have some education. We have to know what body parts are. We have to know what relationships are. We have to know what boundaries are. So the state's putting us in a very, very tough spot, right? And I will say that the legislators not that long ago, like weeks ago, were pushing that national standards were going to be a must. And it was a all call to superintendents to get your vote out there and say, don't do this. And we spoke very loudly and very quickly, and it didn't get through. But it's probably coming. But at this point, you have a choice as a board. And you might not be unanimous in your thought, but this is one of your jobs, to set policy. But this is not what you're deciding this month. This is just for your discussion. So I've given you my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Your turn.
Anyone?
I guess before we need to start the discussion, should we perhaps see if there even needs to be a discussion? Or are we all kind of on the same page? I'd rather, if we're all kind of on Hillary's page, which is where I would say I am, I'd rather us avoid a 30-minute discussion.
Right. Do we have a consensus here that we're on Hillary's page? Raise your hand. All right. We're done.
You're welcome, everyone.
Thank you.
I mean, Hillary said, I have the national
We're
sex
done.
ed standards here.
Oh,
I don't
sorry.
agree with it. So.
I had to say that.
Oh, what?
I said, we're done.
Oh.
The meeting's not over.
No.
But you can go.
All right. I'm sorry, Chelsea.
It's okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, moving on to a mowing proposal.
It's a lot of pages down. Hold on.
Uh, 299.
Yeah. Takes a while. The O&M supervisor was approached by a former student about having the contract to mow district grounds minus playing fields. As you can see in your packet there, this is something that was a decision that was made in the reverse not too long ago, not too many years ago when Susan was superintendent. Previous O&M supervisor had asked to bring the mowing back into district, saying that it would save the district money not to outsource that. We would buy a significant mower and do the work in-house. I believe that the thought was it would not just be the O&M supervisor, but maybe some custodians would be sharing in that load. I do believe it was just the O&M supervisor that was doing that. He used to come back late at night and mow. Right now, it is Steve Hauser that does the majority of the mowing. Doug does the trimming. And you have some information, I believe it was back up by Doug's report, that showed about how many hours per week for half of the year. I think it was about 19 hours per week that they're spending doing that mowing. So those are our two maintenance staff, our two highest paid maintenance staff that are doing about 19 hours a week, 26 weeks of the year. On mowers, doing that work. So that's time that we're losing for them to be doing maintenance work. So I bring you that possibility for you to think of. I did also include something that I found in Susan's documents, kind of an interesting thing back in 2006 and 2007. There was a quote for one less mow per year, and some of the quotes even at that time in 2006 and 2007, a couple of the quotes were higher than what we're getting from somebody this year, which I thought was kind of funny because, I mean, with gas prices and all. So this is just one quote. You can tell me what you would like for me to do with that. Technically, we don't have to go out for bids because this is not over the threshold of $25,000. The person who has put a proposal in does have their own liability insurance, does have their own workers' comp insurance. It was suggested when I was talking to my finance coach about something else, I brought this up, and he suggested we go for a 3-month, kind of like a trial period to see how things go. And then if 3 months went well, we could offer a greater piece of the contract, you know, the rest of the 26-week contract for that season, if we wanted to do so. So you can do what you'd like with that. Ask me to go back and do whatever work you think would be appropriate. We do have a little bit of time before mowing starts. Not much, but a little bit.
My concern was, I shared with Hillary, was I was concerned that there would be other people in the community that also have lawn care services that I know personally that if I had heard that someone just came and gave a proposal and was accepted and I didn't even have a chance to, didn't even know that there was a possibility of providing my services, that I would be kind of upset. So I recommend tabling the proposal for at least another month and at least some way getting this information out into the public. I know it's not, that we can still get bids in, it'll probably be underneath this amount, and at least give the opportunity for others to possibly put their name forward. That's how I feel personally. I don't know if anyone else feels that way.
I agree with you again, Dale. It's a weird night.
Can we look at the cost difference between hiring a part-time employee summer only? At $15 an hour, it's $7,400. At $20 an hour, it's $10,000 for that summer employee at 19 hours a week, 26 weeks. Still saving $7,000 if you're paying a summer kid. Well, the most of the time you're going to be mowing is out of the school year. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Our staff is doing it now. I mean, it's a task that's assigned, you know, as a job responsibility. That's my only thing. I want to do way more research than just deciding to go with it because we're told we need to go with it. There's other options to look at before. And if we come back to this and that's the best fitting thing, then that's it. But I just don't want to jump on it out of the blue. So
Your point's good, I think, but also the other point is the purpose of it would be getting those hours back into the supervisors where they can be doing their work they need to do, not be on the mower at all. That's
Right.
what my thing is.
and that would be where the summer person, or to take a lot of that chunk away, would come in without having,
3 months worth of 14 hours a week.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big chunk. But anyway, I mean, again, I want to look at all the
Well,
angles.
it looked like
we
this
can.
too was, that the district would still be mowing the fields. You know, the
Athletic field.
athletic stuff, right? So I don't know how much that time would consume.
I agree with what Rusty was saying, what you're saying, Dale. I think it needs more looking into. But one of the things I'd also like to know is just having our mowing evaluated in general. I mean, if it's taking 14 hours a week to do this, are we not doing it right? Are there ways that we can improve? Or as school districts, so educating ourselves and our employees on how to do something better is always a good thing. So if that can be cut down from 14 hours to 7 hours, I mean, is that why we're even looking at somebody else to mow, is because it can be mowed more efficiently? Is there a way that we can also do that? Whether it's hiring someone else or just learning to mow better.
Or perhaps even just the supervisor delegating it. The supervisor doesn't have to do it. Perhaps there can be like a weekly rotation schedule.
To who?
Yeah.
Aren't there other, like, it was supposed to be a custodians as well?
There's no time. If there was ever a thought that a custodian had time, I don't know if that was ever spoken, but there's not time for them to hop on. My only thought with the summer person is I mean, that wouldn't be a full-time thing because it doesn't take a full-time person to do that. It would be partial work, and it wouldn't be, like you said, it's not just the summertime. It extends before that and after that. So would you get somebody that was just looking for summer work? It's not quite summer work. It's somebody that would have availability other than that, like somebody who has a mowing company.
I know that one of the former teachers I taught with, his summer job was mowing for golf courses for extra money. So perhaps a teacher that would like some extra money in the summer. Just an idea.
Where's the breakdown of that hours that he had shared? Was that in the closed session notes? I thought there was a breakdown of hours.
That was up near his report, so it would be about,
Okay.
like around page
I remember
55.
I believe it was 3 hours for Mr. Berkman and 3 hours for Steve, or 14 hours for, it's 3 and 11, sorry, for 14 total a week.
Yeah, it's on page 57.
Yeah, I know. So we're going to be asking, what are we going to be asking Hillary to go to gather to bring back to us? It's no use in putting this out for others to give a proposal to want to mow the grass if that's something we're not even going to offer yet. So we just want to do a little bit of research then to come back to us possibly next month with ideas or
I don't mind the idea of looking for a bid, but I think it needs to be a lot more educated than what this is. We need to know exactly what we're looking at, and I think the only way to do that is to look at the total package and then put it out for the community to see who's trying to put into it and what they think it's worth. And if it's going to cost in excess of enough, then look at keeping it inside. Trying to tread that balance of where the efficiency is, whether we're doing it and the cost is worth us doing it versus fixing whatever else was on that plan or hiring it out.
If we're going to put it out for bids, then I would like for the grounds to sit down and actually figure out what we want completed in there, what all needs to be taken care of, what the football fields, the soccer fields, all of that will need to be included in that if we're going to do it. If we're going to take the mowing away, then all of the mowing needs to come off, not just some of it. Or so.
I think some of the hard part with that, though, is some of the fields need so many last-minute things to be done. If it rains, we need to restripe. If we have a game coming up, things need to change at the last minute. I don't know that you can ask somebody who's mowing for you to do all that. That's why I think the thought was to keep the actual athletic fields with us, because it's a different type of preparation. If you can get rid of just the plain mowing and trimming and picking up the sticks and the acorns over at Snyder that make the kids trip and fall, if you can get rid of that stuff, we can take care of the football field has been an area of contention, right? And trying to get that fertilized and all that kind of stuff. If they're doing all the cutting, they have a hard time getting to the weed and feed and taking care of that. They can do the weed and feed and take care of the field the way it needs to be and get the striping done if they don't have all the other stuff, all the regular stuff. But I don't know that you can count on somebody who's going to come and do your cutting to actually do your field and striping and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, I'm not talking about the striping. I'm just saying all mowing. Like if we're going to have them mow, they need to mow everything. I mean, that's because then how do you exclude that? Do you say just the football field, or is the football field with the track, or because we've had that problem over? I mean, we haven't, but over at Weedman Park, who mows the baseball fields, right? That's always been a thing for summer ball. And for summer ball, it never gets mowed when it needs to be mowed, or it's never mowed, and they mow the park, and they don't mow the field because, the school's using it this week. It's their responsibility. So I want to be able to nail that down and get an actual price from multiple people, or put it out there for multiple people. If Cameron is the only one, the return one, then it is what it is. But I think we need to define the areas, not the person supplying the cost in.
Okay.
I mean, that's how normal bids go. We put it out with all of the stuff on it, and, you know.
Who's on the grounds committee? Is that something you guys can possibly come up with some criteria?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem doing that.
How's that work? Get the grounds committee to figure out something and bring to you, or?
Yeah, you said yes or no, Carlos? Yes?
Okay.
Okay. Well, if it's the three of you, we need to have a meeting and invite Doug to be there, have a conversation, figure out, maybe do a drive-through, find out. South Park's another thing, because that's a city piece, and we've had our own arrangements, and Fennell's and everybody's involved in that. Find out exactly what it is, and then we'll call it proposals instead of bids. And, yeah, then we can put it out, webpage, newspaper, that kind of thing.
All right.
I think that gives us a better picture,
Mhm.
because then we know
Yeah.
what that bid for proposals.
Yeah. And then you can talk to Doug about, the actual athletic field pieces and, what we do include and what we don't include. Okay.
All right. Moving on to the transportation proposal.
And what you see in front of you is a summary of what we had talked about last month. We had a few changes with truck and plow in between, but everything else is as it was before, and it's just summarized on a document for you. And that's on page 304.
Is there any questions concerning that? Need a motion and a second to approve the fiscal year 24 transportation proposal and the purchase of the truck and plow for the Transportation Department with fiscal year 2023 funds as presented. Francie? Kenna? Yes. Moving on to approval of additional elementary teaching position.
And that was part of the personnel plan that you heard about up top, third grade moving on to 50. We're getting some very good numbers coming through at Snyder Elementary. Doesn't necessarily mean that we'll move to 3 sections the following year at 4th grade. We are decompartmentalizing in Mr. Huddleston's building at 4, 5, and 6. If we bring 50, 55 kids over to that building, it's not beyond reason to think that we could house 26 to 27 students in one 4th grade classroom, especially when we're building those relationships and keeping them in one classroom other than for specials. So not a done deal decision. We'll see how things go.
Does Ryan anticipate having an issue finding a teacher?
We always worry about that nowadays. Didn't used to be a problem, but we're hoping to be able to post that quickly. And we've actually had one candidate for the one position that's opened. 3 candidates? Reasonable candidates, we think? Yeah?
Yeah.
So, wow. Hurry up. Yeah. Yeah.
Any discussion on this? I need a motion, a second, to approve the addition of an elementary teaching position for the Blue Ridge School District 18 for the 2023-2024 school year. That's presented.
So move.
Kenna? Jason? Yes. Approval of the CRBN Internet Service fiscal year 24.
I think this is the only service contract that is not increasing in price.
Any questions? Need a motion and a second to approve the contract of the CRBN for internet services for Blue Ridge School District 18 for fiscal year 24 as presented.
So moved. Chelsea.
Francie.
Yes.
Yes. We need a motion and a second to move from open session to closed session for appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, dismissal of specific employees of the district at 8:29 p.m. Carlos, second. Dale. Yes, thank you.